the is found in heaven because the devas live for so long, it appears as if as if they are immortal, and that is achieved by nectar. However, none of this is true. Why? Ksharam, Kshiram, Patimritam, Garalam, Patanti. Why? Ksharam. What is Ksharam? If the if the ocean had nectar, why would the ocean be salty? Why would the water be salty? So thereby, the ocean cannot have nectar. Kshayam, if the moon had the nectar, why would there be the phenomenon of waxing and waning of the moon? So the moon doesn't have nectar. Patimritam, if the lips of a woman had nectar, why would their husband who keeps hearing her words die? Garalam, if the snakes had the nectar, why would their throats have poison? Patanti, if the demigods have the nectar, why would they fall down? Abrahma bhuvanan loka punaravartinorjunu. So where is the real nectar? Kanthe rave sudha vasanti bhagavat jarana. The real nectar is found in the throat of a true Vaishnava. We have one such Vaishnavi here, so let us all absorb all the nectar we can. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pacharne Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatyade Satarane Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvoitam Sadvadutam Parijana Sahita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Panchakalpa Jubischa Kripasnavya Patitanam Pavanavyo Vaishnavavyo Namo Namaha. So today is December 4th, 2022, and we're going to be looking at Japa. Now, I find it fascinating that Srila Prabhupada basically introduced the idea of taking vows at the time of initiation. So this practice is not generally done. It's we don't really find it in other parts of our Gaudiya Sampradaya, except those parts that had some connection with Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada, having introduced the concept of taking vows at initiation, asked us for 5 vows. And those 5 vows, 4 of them, really are not bhakti itself. They're supportive to bhakti. I mean, there are plenty of people who are vegetarian or celibate or, don't take intoxicants or don't gamble, and they may be atheists. they may have nothing to do with spiritual life whatsoever. So those 4 vows are not, again, exactly part of bhakti, but they are to keep us from activities which will damage our bhakti. So there's only one vow that Srila Prabhupada had initiates take that is part of the process of bhakti itself. And I find this quite interesting. Only one. I mean, Prabhupada gave so many instructions, but the only thing that he made us promise was to chant 16 rounds of Hare Krishna mantra as japa. So one can say that there are so many items of bhakti that are potent, right? So I've told this story many times before, but perhaps some of you haven't heard it. So there was one company that bought a boiler, a big machine that would heat water in order to power all of their other machines. And they bought a new boiler. But much to their disappointment and consternation, the new boiler wasn't working properly. And so they engaged many repair people in coming to try to fix it, and none of them were successful. Finally, one of the company vice presidents says, I know somebody who's expert at fixing boilers. So they engaged this man, and he took a little hammer, a very small hammer, and he went around the boiler, tap, 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 all different places. And then finally he found one place and he hit it very hard. Then the boiler started to work, and the repairman said, if this is still working in 2 weeks, you let me know and I will send you an invoice. So 2 weeks later, it was still working, and they sent him an invoice, and they sent him they told him it was still working. He sent them an invoice, $5,000 US. $5,000 US. So the company president contacted him and said, please send me an itemized invoice. So the repairman sends back, for hitting the boiler, $5. For knowing where to hit the boiler, $4,995. So what is that point? This morning I was listening to a class that Srila Prabhupada was giving on the last verses of the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And he was making the point that he makes periodically, that it is possible to achieve Krishna consciousness in a moment. Sometimes we will say in a moment, or not for many lifetimes, but it is possible in a moment. So what is that one place to hit where one can achieve full Krishna consciousness? Now, again, one can answer that in many ways, because Rupa Goswami says that performing any of the 64 items of bhakti can give one full perfection. Any of them. And what we have for the 9 main categories of bhakti, hearing, chanting, remembering, so forth, we have an exemplar for each of them who attain perfection. Maharaj Pariksit, who attained perfection just by hearing, Akura, who attained perfection just by offering prayers, and so forth and so on. So it is possible just by taking Charanamrita that one attains perfection. It is possible just by walking in the Rath Yatra parade. We're having our second Rath Yatra parade here where I am staying. And today, because the local government is doing a parade, so we're joining in for the Rath Yatra. So just by walking in the Rath Yatra, but by following the procession, one can achieve perfection. Association with devotees is also a very big one, right? Lava matra. Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastra Koi, Lava Matra, Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Hoy. Just an 11th of a second association with a devotee, one can achieve all perfection. So all of that's true. We are not saying that chanting of japa is the only way to perfection. You can take one bite of prasadam and you can achieve perfection. I mean, I was there in Philadelphia in 1975, when I got second initiation. Srila Prabhupada was speaking about a Jamila, and that 6th canto Bhagavatam had not yet been published. So the devotee, it was one of Prabhupada's disciples, was reading the verse and purport from a manuscript, and he read that at the time of death, a Jamila called out, Narayana, 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 and Prabhupada said, this is not right. He said, who has said Narayana, Narayana, Narayana? He said, one time, Narayana is sufficient. So Jamila attained perfection. Of course, he was spared from death, and he went to perfect his bhakti, but simply by chanting one time Narayana. So that argument can be made. We are not denying that point. However, the emphasis by all of our acharyas, the emphasis from the Shastra, and the emphasis from our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada is on chanting the holy name. That if you want to know where to hit the boiler, it's chanting the holy name. And this is why Srila Prabhupada had us take this one vow of this one. We didn't take a vow to read Shastra every day, although that was his instruction. Yes, Prabhupada said we should hear the Shastra every day, but we didn't take a vow. So there must be something very important about chanting japa, that Srila Prabhupada made that our only vow, our only promise, our only lifetime promise. So if we want to look at the reason for this, I find that the reason is given very clearly in Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's Madhurya Kadambini. In the Madhurya Kadambini, it's a very short book. It's this thick. And there are translations in Hindi, and there are at least 2 translations in English that I'm aware of. Dinabandhu Prabhu translated it into English, and Bhanu Swami's translated into English. There's probably more. It's a very, very short book. It doesn't take long to read, and it doesn't take long to read it several times, which I have done. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur there in that book, Madhurya Kandambani, he takes the process of bhakti that Rupa Goswami gives of Shraddha to Prema, right? That first there's faith, then there's association with the devotees, then there's the practice of sadhana bhakti, then there's the practice of sadhana bhakti starts destroying the anartas. When the anartas are about half destroyed, one becomes fixed in body, mind, and words. On becoming fixed, one develops a taste for the process of bhakti. That taste develops into attachment for Krishna, at which point the practice of bhakti ends and one starts achieving the fruit of bhakti in the form of bhava, or the awakening of the spiritual emotions, and then prema, or full love of God. So he's explaining all of these, and in his section on anartha nivritti, which is, I would argue, the most important part of any genuine spiritual practice, he explains what are the anartas, what are the sources of the anartas, and how can they be removed. Now, I'm sure all of you have noticed, if you're at least 10 or 12 years old, that there are many, many religions in the world. Some of them have been around for thousands of years. Some of them last for 10 or 20 years. But there are so many religions, and there are so many, we could say, spiritual groups and spiritual practices that aren't necessarily calling themselves as religious. And if one is honest, and one observes honestly and historically, one will see that the majority of people in these religions and spiritual groups and spiritual practices are not enlightened. That's a very honest observation. That's true in our International Society for Krishna Consciousness as much as it's true anywhere. So why is it? What is the reason for that? Now, in some cases, we can say, well, the process itself that's being taught is not bona fide. It's somebody just made up a process. Just stare at amethyst crystals and you'll become enlightened or something. And so the process is bogus. Or we might say the person is not following the process properly. It's a genuine process, but they're not following it properly. But the proper following of a process, and this is true with any religious process, any spiritual process that is bona fide, the proper following has to involve this anartha nivritti. And this is the point at which the vast majority of practitioners stop. They don't go to the anartha nivritti point. So let's think about this for a minute. What we're trying to become enlightened, of course, we in our Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we want to go beyond enlightened. Brahmabhuta prasanatmana sochatina kantati samasarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. We want to go beyond enlightenment, beyond Brahmabhuta to Krishna prema. So what is nice about our Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy is that we understand in great detail an ultimate spiritual goal beyond that understood in so many other religions and spiritual processes, however bona fide they may be. But in order to attain perfection in spirituality, whether a beginning level of Brahmabhuta or whether the ultimate level of love of God, one has to awaken the real ego. And in order to do that, one has to concomitantly destroy the false ego. My dear friends, no matter how much we may attest to the fact that we would like to attain our spiritual body and our spiritual relationship and play and dance with Krishna in the spiritual world forever, we have a tendency to want to be attached to our false ego. Why? Because we think that that's who I am. And we're terrified that if we were to dismantle our false ego, that we would cease to exist and that we would cease to be able to enjoy. And this anartha nivritti is a dismantling of the false ego. Unless and until one goes through the process of anartha nivritti, one will stay a prakrita bhakta, or a materialistic devotee. And we see again that the majority of people, regardless of the particular system, stay on that platform. Now, we can be very, 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 very proud, and rightly so, that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us the highest knowledge. I feel it is an objective fact. Now, I realize that I'm prejudiced. I'm a member of the Gaudiya Sampradaya and a member of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and everybody thinks that their team is the best team. I mean, I understand that I may have some subjectivity here, but from an objective point of view, who else has such a description of who is God? What does he do? Who is this? Who are we? Who is the soul? What is the perfection of life? Who else has such a description even of the nature of the material energy? Nobody. But while we may be justifiably proud of the knowledge that we have, unless and until we go through anartha nivritti, it remains more or less theoretical, with some little experiences, some little spiritual experiences here and there. So how are we going to get through anartha nivritti? How are we going to dismantle the false ego? So in Madhurya Kadambini, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes the different sources of anarthas. He describes them as coming from past sins. That's our predilection to commit more sins. And all of the problems we face in japa, being sleepy, being unfocused, not really caring, thinking about our problems in this world, thinking about what we want to achieve in this world. This is all described nicely by Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Harinam Chintamani. So that's from past sinful activities. Then we have the anarthas from past pious activities. That's wanting liberation instead of love. Of course, in order to love, we have to be free. But if one simply wants freedom, in and of itself, that's the antithesis of love. If I love someone, I bind myself to them. Yes, that's the whole idea of marriage. If I really love you, I bind myself to you. Anyway, wanting liberation, separate from bhakti, and wanting heavenly pleasures. That's from past pious activities. So those are two sources of anarthas. Then there's another funny source of anarthas, and that is that as one performs bhakti, one becomes respected. And one maybe get attached to that respect. That's a kind of funny source of anarthas. An artha that comes from bhakti itself. And then there are anarthas of offenses. So Rupa Goswami lists, and we won't list them now, the 10 offenses to chanting from the Padma Purana. And he also lists offenses to the holy places, and he also lists offenses to the deities, right? Like you're not supposed to enter the temple wearing shoes, things like that. You're not supposed to enter the temple wearing dirty clothing. So all these offenses, and all of these cause anarthas. Anarthas mean that they feed our false ego. They feed our false identity. They tie us to this world. They are the nourishment of our false material identification. But they look nice, just like our false ego looks nice. I'm thinking, yes, I am this kind of person, and I am from this place, and I am an American, and Americans are the best people, and I am from New York, and New Yorkers are the best among the Americans. And, we think like this. Somebody thinks, I am from Punjab, so I am the best Indian. No, I am from Kerala, and I am the best Indian. Right? Just like I've met some devotees who say that we should all adopt Bengali culture. And I'm like, you'll never convince the people in Tamil Nadu of this proposition. So each of us, we like our identity, and these anarthas feed our identity. So they look to us like very nice things. Yes, this is very attractive. Krishna talks about this in the Bhagavad Gita in relation to the demons. He says, Kamashrita. The demons take shelter of lust. And Krishna says, Ahankara Ashtrita, we take shelter of our false ego. We think that my pride, my identification in my place of birth, my group, my gender, my occupation, my social status, whatever, that this is the source of my existence and this is the source of my happiness. So these are our anartas, and we collect them, we feed them, we nourish them, even though they are destroying us spiritually. Like sometimes you hear about a person who has gotten bitten by their own dog. Yes? Right? Sometimes people get killed by their own pets. It happens. Sometimes the pet dog kills you, or, people have these exotic pets like pythons or something. And they don't show up to work. They're real stories in the news, some guy doesn't show up to work and he was eaten by his pet python. So our willingness to go through this anarta nivritti, our excitement to go through anarta nivritti, our anticipation of going through anarta nivritti. It's something like wanting to take a shower when you're very dirty. That is the key to spiritual life. And that is what differentiates the vast majority of people who claim to be in the religious system and may be following, apparently, externally, very strictly, the rules of that religious system, and people who actually get the fruit of that religious system. Now, our fortune is that the fruit that's being offered to us, I would say, objectively, is the best fruit that's being offered to anybody in any religious system of the world. But still, we have to go through that process. So how do we go through that process? So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and also Bhaktivinoda Thakur, they say that the way to get rid of all the anartas from past sins, from past piety, from being proud of our bhakti, and from offenses is particularly the holy name. Of all of the different processes, and all of them can work, as I said. Association devotees can get rid of anartas, yes, but the primary means is chanting the holy name. All right. Excellent. However, we have a problem, and that is that some of the offenses that we need to get rid of as our anartas are offenses in our chanting. So how are we going to get rid of those? By our chanting, we get rid of our attachments from past sins, our attachment from past piety, our attachment to honor from our bhakti. We get rid of all our offenses to the Dham, to the deities. But how are we going to get rid of the offenses to chanting itself? So there we are told that we have to chant with attention. Now, again, this principle applies to all of the processes of bhakti. In other words, I should worship the deities with attention. I should associate with devotees with attention. I should visit the holy places with attention. I should follow the Rath Yatra cart with attention. But what's nice about the holy name is that anybody can approach the holy name. To worship the deities, you have to take a bath and have clean clothing, and you have to be properly initiated. To follow the Rath Yatra cart, there has to be a Rath Yatra. But the holy name is always there. Always. You can be walking down a busy city street with no devotees in sight, and the holy name is there. You may not be able to say the holy name, but the holy name can be in your mind and in your heart. Well, this is one of the reasons why the holy name, and the holy name is the most merciful form of Krishna Bhakti, Vinod Thakur says. Of all the various angas of bhakti, in this form, the Lord is the most kind, most accessible, and the most kind. Therefore, although attention to any of the angas of bhakti can destroy anartas, especially attention to the holy name. Why is it that paying attention is so crucial? Well, this is it. It's actually a very simple thing. Krishna is like the sun and Maya is like darkness. If I'm in the light, I'm not in the darkness. It's quite a simple thing. But if I'm in the light and I have, those hats with the shades, shade over your eyes. So, if you're not attentive to the light, if you're covering yourself from the light. So if one is just mechanically chanting, mechanically chanting is better than not chanting. But if one is just mechanically chanting, one's in the light, but one's not aware of the light. One's not taking advantage of the light. Like some of you may be in this class and you're not paying the slightest bit of attention. So then it has no value, right? So how many of us have sat in somebody's class and we had no idea at the end of the class what they said? Me. Because our minds were elsewhere. Right? There's the funny joke where the wife comes and says to the husband, my dear, I'd like to buy some new diamond jewelry. Yes, dear, whatever you want. Because he wasn't listening to anything she said. And then he sees the bill. And what's this bill? And she said, well, you said whatever I want. When did you ask me? Well, I don't know. Maybe you weren't paying attention. So we have to be attentive to Krishna. Now, what happens when we are attentive to Krishna in any of the angas of bhakti, but particularly in chanting the holy name? And my dear friends, please listen very, very closely to this. When we are attentive to Krishna, he makes everything clear. Please don't think that Krishna is going to get rid of our anarthas like while we're unconscious or something. It's not like that. It's, if you had, if someone has some growth, some tumor, and they go to the doctor and the doctor gives them some anesthesia and removes the tumor while they're unconscious. But even then, you have to go to the doctor, right? You have to notice, oh, I have this growth here. And then you have to go to the doctor and you have to say, what is this? And if the doctor says, oh, this should be removed, okay, you go remove it. And then you show up to surgery. You make sure you didn't eat or drink before surgery, and you show up to the surgery and you submit yourself to the anesthetic. Yes, there's some cooperation on your part. The doctor doesn't sneak into your house in the middle of the night without your knowing about it and remove your tumor. That doesn't happen. It's not that you're just, going along in life with some cancer in your body and you don't notice and you don't get a diagnostic test and the doctor just sneaks in your room in the middle of the night and anesthetizes you and takes it out. So Krishna doesn't do that either. It's not like that. Why? Because love is about free will. So when we're attentive in our bhakti, and especially in our chanting of the holy name, then Krishna shows us, hey, this thing you're holding on to, it's killing you. You think it's your nice pet python, but it's going to eat you. You think this is your dog loves you, but actually your dog is going to bite you and eat you. It's an anartha. It's something unwanted. It's killing you. And then we have to choose. Then we have to choose. This is the whole Bhagavad Gita, right? We just had Gita Jayanti here. I don't know. Did you yesterday also? So what is the Bhagavad Gita? Arjuna is holding on to an anartha, thinking it's something nice. Oh, I want to be nice to Drona and Bhishma. Drona is my guru, and Bhishma is like my father. My father died, and Bhishma raised me. And even Duryodhana, they're my cousins. How can I hurt the heart of Gandhari? What about all the women whose husbands and sons and brothers and fathers will die? Who will take care of them? I've heard this from the scriptures, and I don't care about a kingdom and wealth. And Arjuna thought this was very good. And Krishna showed him, What is the real nature of his attachment? Krishna showed him what was the real nature of Maya. Prabhupada says, the naked form of material desires. And Krishna also showed himself. He showed, who am I? He showed his glory, his majesty in the universal form, but he also showed his sweetness and his kindness and how he was the most dear friend. And then he says to Arjuna, choose. I remember meeting one gentleman many years ago who came to me and said, Urmila, I always follow my favorite verse in the Bhagavad Gita. I said, oh, what's that? Where Krishna says to Arjuna, now you do whatever you like. So Krishna wants us to choose. But we cannot choose unless we see clearly. Chanting attentively enables us, or doing any bhakti attentively, enables us to see clearly. We can see Krishna. Oh, there's Krishna, the all-attractive, the strongest, the kindest, the smartest, the most powerful, the richest, Akila Rasamrita Murti, full of every possible type of flavor of enjoyment, eternally expanding without limit. And here's my false ego, a rotten, stinking, disgusting thing. And one sees it for what it is. The veil of illusion is removed. The illusion that makes us think, my false ego is wonderful. It's removed. We see Maya for what it is, and we see Krishna for what he is. And then we have to choose. And that is anartha nivritti. And the more we are attentive, and the more we can see Krishna and Maya clearly, and the more consistently we choose Krishna, the faster we advance. And our anarthas start falling away as we choose Krishna. In fact, they fall away immediately. As soon as I say, no, I don't want that anartha. Now, that doesn't work if we're not seeing it clearly. If you just say, no, I don't want any of my anarthas, that's not true. One has to see it clearly, because part of seeing it clearly, and this is the hardest thing, my dear friends, part of seeing it clearly is that we see that I am attached to it. We see here's this yucky, disgusting, rotting thing. But I've been loving it. I've been feeding it. I've been taking care of it. We take responsibility without excuses, because only when we take responsibility for the fact that we've been holding it, can we take the responsibility for letting go of it. One cannot let go of something that one doesn't acknowledge that one is holding. It's not possible. So this is what Krishna shows through attentive chanting. And as one progresses through anartha nivritti, then Krishna consciousness becomes tastier and tastier and tastier and tastier. Because we start awakening our real self. We start realizing, who am I? Who am I in my eternal service to Krishna? One starts seeing everything that we say we want when we take up bhakti. That we will see Krishna everywhere, that we will understand our true self and our relationship with Krishna. That we will start living life with a thrill at every moment. All of that starts gradually and progressively becoming available to us as we continuously choose Krishna and let go of our anarthas. But that is only possible if we are attentive in our bhakti. And what you will see is that people who don't really want to go through anartha nivritti, which is unfortunately the majority of people who say they want a spiritual process, is that they will either not follow strictly or they'll follow without attention. They'll chant Hare Krishna, but they'll chant without attention. Why? Because as soon as they are attentive, they will see things clearly. I hope this makes sense to everybody. Just imagine a very easy and gross anartha, like, say, smoking cigarettes. Everybody knows that smoking is bad for you. It's well known. So if someone's smoking, they know on some level it's bad for them, and they know they're voluntarily smoking, right? But they have to really see, oh my goodness, what am I doing? I am pouring tar into my lungs for the sake of whatever, I don't know, I've never smoked, but whatever happiness they get from the nicotine. For this little whatever chemical something, I'm destroying my ability to breathe. What am I doing? And then when the soul says, I no longer choose to hold this, immediately the attachment is fully gone. And unless we were to work very, very hard to bring it back, it will not come back. It's permanently gone. So this is why we want to chant Hare Krishna and why we want to chant with attention. Okay, what do we mean by chanting with attention? So we can mean attention to just the quantity. That's a kind of attention. You know, traditionally, Vaishnavas take some determination that I'm going to chant the name a certain number of times, and Prabhupada has given us a minimum of 16 times 108, 1,728 mantras a day. So paying attention to the quantity. Am I actually chanting? What is the quantity? That's a kind of attention. Just like in a marriage, you know, if a husband and wife never see each other, it's kind of hard to have a relationship. How do you be attentive to your spouse if you never see them? So you may say, oh, well, we'll spend time together every day at breakfast, or we'll spend time together every day in the evening. You set some time that you're going to dedicate, right? I mean, this is normal. If you're going to be attentive at a job, you have to set aside, I'm going to set aside, people have a certain number of hours they work at a job. So attention to quantity. Krishna, I'm going to hang out with you for this amount of time, you and me, nothing else going on. Right? And if you have a time dedicated to your spouse or to your child or to your job, you want it to be full attention again. Not, oh, yes, dear, this is our time together, but I'm also going to be answering my email. That's not going to work. So attention to quantity means attention to a time that this is my time for Krishna. Then, if at all possible, having a conducive place. Now, one can chant anywhere. One can chant, Prabhupada said, in the car, in the bus, in the train, in the airplane. Prabhupada said we can chant in the toilet room, not that we bring our beads in there. But in general, we should try to have a conducive place. We should try to have some place that's free from distractions. So, you know, your computer should be off. Your phone should be on the other side of the room. Right? And conducive company. People who are not just going to chatterbox with you. Like one of my friends said, oh, I'm having trouble finishing my rounds. And I said, well, why don't you chant with someone else? Oh, that's a good idea. I said, what about so-and-so? And she said, oh, all we'll do is talk. So conducive company. And then hearing. One of the best ways to be attentive in our chanting is to hear regularly from the Shastra and from sadhus. And then we're like, yeah, I want to do that. Right. What's also very helpful, Bhaktivinoda recommends this, is having some times for extended chanting. Like maybe on festivals, or of course, sometimes festivals we're running around like crazy and we barely have time for 16 rounds. So sometimes we have to go away from everybody, right? Maybe on an Ekadasi or on a festival or during Kartik. Have some times when one does extended chanting. When one is chanting, 32 rounds or 25 rounds or 64 rounds. It's helpful to have a set time of day that helps train the mind. That the mind knows, I mean, again, we can chant at any time, but if the mind knows from this time to this time, from 5 to 6 in the morning, I'm going to be chanting. I don't do other things. I'm not paying my bills. I'm not answering my messages. I'm not cleaning my room. I'm not studying my schoolwork. I'm just going to chant at this time. That's very helpful. Not necessary, but it's very helpful. Having a generally pure life. I mean, if our life is full of material distractions, then when we sit to chant, then our mind may go to all of these distractions. Then identifying ourselves as a soul. if we don't yet know, our ultimate spiritual identity in Krishna's Leela, at least we can identify that I am a soul, I am a servant of Krishna. As someone wrote me the other day that she didn't have any attachment to Krishna, but she had attachment to Prabhupada. I said, then chant with attachment to Prabhupada. Chant so that, meditate on that Prabhupada is aware of my chanting, and is he going to smile at me? And having a sankalpa, having a goal, not to chant just because, our parents want us to, or it's how, we can get some free prasadam, but to chant because I really want to love Krishna. I want to achieve spiritual perfection. I want to let go of my anarthas. I want to get close to Krishna. And then being kind to all living entities. Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions that the three gifts of Lord Chaitanya are sadhu sangha, namruchi, and jivadoya. Without being compassionate to living entities, Krishna is not really going to reveal himself to us. It just doesn't work. If you're mean to my kids, I'm really not going to want to get close to you. It's just the way it is. I mean, I might want to get to know you if you're mean to me, but if you're mean to my kids, no. So if Krishna sees that we're cruel to other living entities, we can try techniques of attention, but this is ultimately about a personal relationship. And therefore, Krishna will say, sorry, if you're going to be cruel to other living entities. And this is all jivas, even insects. Of course, it may be hard. Like I take care of Tulsi Devi and I have to kill insects. I have I have two very young great grandsons, 2 years old and 4 years old, and they like to play that they're killing demons. They get out their wooden swords and they call me Gran. They have a grandma and I'm their Gran. So they say, Gran, we're killing demons. We're killing demons. And sometimes I come back from Tulsi's greenhouse and I say, I actually killed some demons. Like yesterday, I was picking leaves for the temple and I probably killed about 20 mealybug demons. So sometimes we may have to be cruel to insects, but generally, even with insects, right, we take them carefully outside. We make sure that Prabhupada, one time there's a story that Prabhupada called in his servant at like 2 a.m. when Prabhupada was translating. And Prabhupada showed his servant a little bug. And he said, this bug has been here for hours and it's hungry. It can't get anything to eat. Please put it outside on some plant so it can eat. So, and we should be kind to the devotees. I mean, if we're going to be kind to worms and ants, and certainly we should be kind to the devotees. I mean, we have some situations where, someone will be nicer to a cow than they are to their wife. So, we should be kind to all living entities. Krishna says, he for whom no one is put into difficulty and who is not disturbed by others is very dear to me. And it's just, I cannot emphasize this enough. Without being kind and compassionate to living entities, Krishna will not reveal himself to us, no matter what kind of mechanical thing we do. You can say, okay, I'm going to chant every day from 5 to 7 in the morning, and I'm going to chant 16 rounds all at one time. And I'm going to make sure I have no distractions and I have good company, and you're going to follow all those things. And I'm going to hear every syllable of the name. But if you get up from your japa and you're mean to other living entities, Krishna will stay far away. And you will not see your anarthas, and you will not see him, and you'll not be able to choose because you won't see clearly how to choose. All right. Now I want to look at some quotes from Srila Prabhupada about attentive chanting. And you may find some of these revolutionary, and that's cool. I hope you do find them revolutionary. I hope they revolutionize your life. Okay, it looks like, could the host please spotlight me? There we go. That'll show up properly in the recording. Okay, thank you. So I hope you can clearly see this. I don't have time to go through all of these. We want to leave some time for discussion and questions. So these are some quotes. I will read them. So this is practice. First of all, think of the deity. First of all, think of the lotus feet, then the knees, then the eyes, then the belly, then the chest. In this way, as you become practiced, then go further, advance. In this way, when you become fully practiced, then automatically, in whatever condition you are, you will be able to meditate upon Krishna. That is the highest perfection of life. Satatam kirtayanto mam, satatam chintayanto mam. If you always think of Krishna, always chant. Chanting is also meditation. I'm going to read that again. Chanting is also meditation. As soon as you chant, you immediately remember Krishna, his form, his name, his quality, his pastimes. Where is the difficulty? That was a lecture in Nairobi in 75. Then from Gita 8:8 purport, yoga practice is meditation on the super soul within. Similarly, by chanting Hare Krishna, one fixes his mind always on the Supreme Lord. The mind is fickle, and therefore it is necessary to engage the mind by force to think of Krishna. And now I really want to emphasize this. So generally, spiritual life is not about force. Generally, spiritual life is about natural attraction. However, sadhana bhakti practice means there's some degree of force. You know, if I'm learning how to play the piano, I don't yet know how to play the piano. It has to be, okay, I'm going to play the piano. This is my piano playing time. Okay, here's another one. Letter to Balabi in 1967. I want you to notice that this is in 1967. While chanting Hare Krishna, you should always feel the presence of Krishna in person. And as soon as you remember Krishna in person, you can remember also about his talks with Arjuna. Now keep in mind that in 1967, the Krishna book had not yet been published. All we had was Bhagavad Gita. So when Prabhupada's going to say to think of Krishna what, right? Okay, going on with this letter. If you cannot remember Krishna in person, you should try to hear attentively the word Krishna Hare as you go on chanting. Please note here that just simply hearing the sound is Prabhupada's giving as a second best. So just hearing the sound is a second best. Okay, let's go on to class on Bhagavatam 6.119 in Denver 75. It is very easy, not difficult. Without any condition, you simply chant and remember Krishna. It is not at all difficult. Everyone can. Here you are seeing the deity of Krishna. So while chanting, if you remember this deity, is it very difficult? And Prabhupada often gives this instruction to remember the deity while chanting. Here we have a letter, 1970. Again, note how early it is. Regarding how George, this is George Harrison, regarding how George may continue his meditation, that meditation may be done by keeping one picture of Krishna, keeping his mind concentrated on the picture of Krishna, and softly chanting the Hare Krishna mantra as long as he likes. Okay, I'm not going to read the rest of that. This next one is a favorite of mine. It's from a lecture in Geneva in 1974. And Prabhupada says, the Hare Krishna mantra chanting means keeping Krishna always within your heart. It is not expensive at all. You haven't got to make a very exalted throne for Krishna. You can imagine. Now, I'd like you to note that Prabhupada is using the word imagine. Sometimes people think or preach that this should only happen when it is revealed by the Lord, and that we should not do this with the mind. However, in the third canto, Lord Kapiladev says the mind is used as a hook to catch the Lord, just like one catches a fish. And Jiva Goswami says the Lord reveals himself, the Lord enters the heart of the devotee on the pathway of the devotee's meditation. So as we meditate with the mind, then Krishna becomes attracted and he reveals himself. Okay, so Prabhupada says, you can imagine that. In my heart, I have placed now a very diamond throne, and Krishna is sitting. That is accepted. It is. Actually, it becomes. Even within the mind, you think, I have kept one diamond throne, very costly throne, because Krishna is coming. He will sit down here. That is not false. That is a fact. So think about this, what Prabhupada's saying. He's saying you can imagine it, and then he's saying it's not false. It's a fact. So you create such situation within your heart. Now Krishna has seated. Let me wash his feet with the Ganges water, Yamuna water. Now change his dress to a first-class costly garments. Then I decorate with ornaments. Then I give him for eating. You can simply think of this. This is meditation. Swanta stena gata brita. It is so nice thing. Anywhere you can sit down and think that Krishna is sitting in your heart and you are receiving in so nice way. They are not false. They are also fact. It is so easy. So here is if you simply carry Krishna within your heart, always in a very devotional service, exalted devotional service, and chant Hare Krishna and think of Krishna, wherever you will go, you will purify the whole place. Okay, we have a number of short ones here. This is interesting in a 4856 purport, where Prabhupada is saying we should also worship the deity and not only meditate on the form while we are chanting. And here in a Nectar Devotion lecture 73, that as soon as we say the name Krishna, we immediately remember Krishna. All right, now I want to read just one more here, although there's more. So this is a lecture on Bhagavatam in San Francisco, 1967. And I want you to, again, think of how early this was. Now, Krishna book was published a little later, but Prabhupada had manuscripts of the Krishna book, so he's talking about Krishna book. So he says, as soon as you chant Hare Krishna, immediately you remember Krishna. Krishna's form, this is a repeating theme that Prabhupada says in many places. As soon as you chant Hare Krishna, immediately you remember Krishna, Krishna's form, Krishna's fighting, Krishna's sitting on the chariot of Arjuna. So this is something Prabhupada says a lot. If you read Krishna book always, some of his pastimes will immediately appear in my brain, immediately, as soon as you chant Hare Krishna. That is required. Smaranam, automatically. So here again, Prabhupada is equating chanting Hare Krishna with smaranam, with remembering. As soon as you chant Hare Krishna, if you mechanically chant, thinking of something nonsense, then it will be useless. And when you hear the recording of this, it kind of hits you like, it will be useless. Then Prabhupada has this long pause. And it's like he considers, and he says, it will take time. But if there is immediate remembrance of Krishna, we are hearing about Krishna, so many things, reading about Krishna. Why not remembrance? That means inattention. So here, Srila Prabhupada is defining what is inattention and what is attention. That means deficient in Krishna consciousness. We should immediately, as soon as we chant Hare Krishna, immediately, at least we should remember the picture that Krishna is so kind that he has become the chariot driver of his devotee Arjuna, and he is giving his instruction Bhagavad Gita. Or Krishna is playing in the forest along with his cowherd boys' friends, eating very nicely on the bank of the Yamuna, and some demon came, and he is killing, and the boys are, I mean to say, encouraging him with claps. This enjoyment is going on. What is the difficulty in remembering Krishna? What for this Krishna book is there? You read it and remember it. That will keep you in Krishna consciousness. So that is what we mean by attentive chanting. All right, so we have about 15 minutes for questions and discussion. If I go longer than 15 minutes, I will not get any breakfast today. It will be gone. So I'm staying at a temple, and the breakfast is going to be served in about 5 minutes, and in 15 minutes, 90% of it will be gone. So 15 minutes, whatever questions, comments, doubts, chastisements, anybody has.
Please, you may raise your hands there on the side, and you can unmute yourselves, and please ask question, whatever questions you have.
Do you want to call on people, or you want me to call on people?
You can call out questions there.
I can call. Or you can put a question in the chat if you like.
Yeah, or you can put it in the chat box too. I think people are settling down to such a wonderful class.
I see in the BGIS conference hall, they decided that my class is over and they have all gone.
Is it?
They saw them walking out the
They're
door.
coming closer to the mic, I believe, to ask the questions. That's
Oh, is that what they're doing? Okay. By the way, how is my sound? I just got a new mic and I was wondering, how is the sound quality?
we made it there. I
Sound was excellent, Mataji.
yes, yeah. Somebody, Parveshu. Okay.
I don't see
Sound
any
was
hand.
okay, Mataji. It was all right. Sound.
Yes.
Sound is all right?
Yes, Mataji. Sound was all right.
Okay, good.
So is there any question from the conference hall at BGIS? And is there any question from anybody from Thinking Stars? Please feel.
Mataji, one child has a question.
Okay.
Yeah. So this child asked me, you spoke on Jeev Daya and treating all Krishna's children equally. So
Yes.
this child asked, if I am not treated equally, if somebody disrespects me and I don't feel like treating them with love, and I know Krishna will judge me for that. So what to do in that case? He's asking. Pulkit from grade 8.
Okay. So being kind to all living entities doesn't mean that I have to live with everybody. You know, you don't invite tigers into your house just because you want to be kind to all living entities. Keep the tiger at a distance. But our love for other living entities, if it's based on how they treat me, then that's not actually love at all for them. It's love for myself. If I love you only if you do things that I like and you're nice to me, then my focus is on me. I hope this makes sense to everybody.
Yes, Mataji. Say yes, Mataji.
Yeah, and it's not love. It's just, it's like I like a store because they sell things that I want to buy. And I don't like another store because they don't sell things I want to buy. So I like you if you do things for me that I like and you treat me as I like and you're nice to me. And if you don't, I don't like you. But we should like everybody. Everyone who loves Krishna should love everyone that Krishna loves. And Krishna loves everyone. Krishna loves even, you know, cobras and tigers. And Krishna loves even murderers and rapists and arsonists and thieves. And Krishna loves everyone. Now, you don't want to have a murderer live in your house. It's not that you want to, you know, go alone in the park with a murderer. But one should have care for everyone. So this needs to be cultivated. And you can ask Krishna to help you. You know, we should discriminate and not be with people who are going to hurt us if we can avoid it. Sometimes it's not avoidable. But we should never hate anyone. And we should never wish anyone harm. Even if you want to say the punishment for criminals, you know, why do we punish criminals? Actually, for their benefit. If a criminal gets punished by the government, they won't have to suffer in the next life. So that's kindness. It's actually kindness. It should be out of, well, this person stole my money, they should suffer. No, it should be, this person stole my money, they should have their proper punishment from the government so that they won't have to suffer bad karma. It takes practice. It takes practice. You can start mechanically thinking like that. That's okay. I know that's okay because I did that. I decided one day that I was going to try to be kind to all living entities, even those who were not kind to me. And Krishna gave me an opportunity to practice the next day. There was somebody who was very nasty to me and very mechanically in my mind. Very mechanically. I just said, okay, all right, I'm supposed to be nice to them. I don't want to be nice to them, but I'm supposed to be nice to them. I'm supposed to care about them. All right. Okay. All right.
Thank you for answering, Mataji.
Well, let me finish. So I said, however you are hurting me, in my mind, I said, however you are hurting me, may you learn your lesson and become purified in the most joyful way possible. I wish you well. And immediately, and I said it mechanically just because I thought I was supposed to. I didn't feel it at all. I just thought it. Immediately, I was flooded with peace. And I thought, wow, if that happens when I do it mechanically, imagine what will happen when I do it genuinely. So you can start with the mechanical.
Thank you. It's lovely answer. Anybody else also has a question?
Mataji, there's one more question from teacher.
Okay.
Yeah. So the question is, Mataji, if we are hurt by someone, if our intentions are taken wrong or in wrong context, and those things they creep in while chanting. Those things like we were taken in wrong context or we were misunderstood, and such things they keep on coming while chanting. What is the reason for it, and why? What is the
Okay,
solution?
ask this teacher if this teacher is willing to hear the honest answer. It will sting. If they don't want to hear, I will not say, because the honest answer will sting a little bit.
No,
So you have to
Mataji.
ask. That's okay.
She's saying she is ready to hear the honest answer.
Ask one more time.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Mataji. I want to hear Mataji.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay, then you will not blame me when it stings a little bit.
No, Mataji.
No, Mataji.
Okay. 100% you're a Ahankara. 100%. This is the third verse of the Shikshastika. That we respect others and we ask for no respect in return. Now, what I have found to be very helpful in this is to understand that our tendency to feel offended and our tendency to think about the ways in which we have been offended is simply due to our biology. We are social beings. And in order for us to live, generally, we are dependent on our social group to like us and accept us. If our social group, especially a high status person in our social group, or someone on whom we have a close relationship, if they're not respectful to us, then on a biological level, our mind and our brain is programmed to see that as a threat to our survival. Just like if a pack of dogs were to come at you in an alley and bark at you. So your brain would immediately understand that it was a threat, and it would turn on what's called the sympathetic nervous system. It would put stress hormones in your body like cortisol and adrenaline to try to protect your physical body from the pack of dogs. Exactly the same biochemical process happens when our mind interprets that we have been offended by someone in our social group, especially if that person has high status and has some control over resources. So if that person has some control, either real or imagined, over our food, our shelter, our friends, whatever, and they have done something that we consider threatening to us, our brain again is programmed to react exactly like a pack of barking dogs, because it is also a threat. Maybe I won't get food. You know, if people in my social circle don't like me, if they're angry with me, maybe I won't eat. Maybe I won't get shelter. Maybe I won't get saved from enemies. And this system is there, kindly designed by God to protect us. It's kind of like an alarm, a fire alarm, you know, smoke alarm in your house. So understanding this can help you to get some detachment. Am I, the soul, really at risk of anything? Na jayate miyate va kadache nayam bhutva bhavita ba nabuyaha ajo nicha sasvato yam purano nahanyate hanyamane sharina. Nobody can hurt me. Not a pack of dogs and not somebody who's upset with me. Nobody can hurt me. I'm the soul. That feeling of anxiety is coming from the cortisol and adrenaline in your system. That's what it's coming from. And the brain is programmed by a loving God that when we're under threat, all of our attention goes to the threat. It has to. You don't want to be working calculus equations when there's a pack of barking dogs. So if our brain perceives something as a threat, we become one-pointed and obsessive about that threat until we feel the threat is neutralized. And that's why if somebody offends us or insults us or doesn't like us or something, or we imagine that they did, our body and mind go into this danger system, and all of our focus becomes on that. And Krishna says in the Bhagavatam that even a sage finds it very, very hard to make his mind peaceful after being insulted. God says this. It's very difficult. But you can do it by detachment. It is possible, Krishna says, to curb the restless mind by suitable practice and by detachment. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 2:64, become free from attachment and aversion, and then you will get Bhagavat Prasad, which doesn't just mean samosas. It means that Krishna will help you. So step back. It can help. One thing you can do is physically, you can calm the system down by very slow, deep breathing. Because when we're in danger, our body also breathes very quickly to get a lot of oxygen so we can run away from the dogs. And if you do slow, deep breathing, it signals your brain, I'm not in danger, I'm not in danger. So physically, this is why in all systems of yoga, people would sit down quietly and they would do some kind of pranayama or some kind of breathing that actually changes the chemicals in the body. That can be very, very helpful. And then just stop and step back and say, I am safe. I am a soul. It can help also physiologically. If you touch your heart, your body thinks that you're being hugged. You just, I am safe. I am a soul. I am not this person who's being insulted or misunderstood. That is not me. I am safe. I am a soul. I am safe. Krishna loves me. Krishna always loves me. I am safe. I am a soul. And then chant. And if those thoughts come, just, I am safe. I am a soul. And look, just how many times did people offend you and not understand you in the past? And it's over and it's fine now. I can't even remember all those things I was upset about 10 years ago. You know, I can remember sometimes that I was upset, but I don't necessarily remember what I was upset about. And I don't even remember all the times I was upset about things. It will pass. Let it pass. Like a noisy truck, you're walking down the street and some noisy truck goes by. And for a moment, you can't hear anything else but the truck, but just let it go past. Don't grab onto the truck and run behind it. Let it go past. Another thing to remember is that you do this to others. You misunderstand others. You cause pain to others without even knowing that you have. They don't necessarily tell you. Even with the best of intentions, you cause pain to others. We all do. We all misunderstand others, or we all say things without really thinking about what we're saying or thinking about what we're doing. We all, you know, even the most responsible of us forgets things sometimes. We all cause pain to others. And so this is the way of the world, that because we cause pain to others, others cause pain to us. But none of this is actually a threat. To move back. This takes practice. But throughout the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavatam, this view of being free from this sort of thing is essential to any kind of yoga, any kind of spirituality. One must move back. How many times does Krishna say, to be equal to friends, enemies, and neutral, honor, dishonor, fame, infamy, happiness, distress? How many times? Over and over and over and over and over again. And it's not like, well, I'm going to chant Hare Krishna and then one day that's just going to fall on me and I'm going to be equipoised. No, it's part of our sadhana. Rupa Goswami lists at least 2 or 3 items of the 64 angas of practicing this kind of Step back. Step back. Okay, these chemicals are raging through my body like this noisy truck. I just step back and it will pass through. If there's no immediate danger, the stress chemicals last for 90 seconds only. If there's actual danger, they'll last under healthy conditions, they'll last for only 20 minutes. If they're lasting longer than that, it's because we are meditating on them. That's on us. Right? And if you tend to overreact, think of it as a smoke alarm that goes off every time you make chapatis. You may need to readjust your settings. You may need to readjust your sensitivity. So if it's a frequent thing that you are feeling offended and upset and catastrophizing it and meditating on it, then you need to adjust your settings downward. You can actually visualize a little dial, you know, and go, okay, brain, thank you for trying to protect me. I appreciate it. Thank you, Krishna. Thank you, Lord Brahma, for designing my alarm system. But I think I'm at a number 8 or 9 of sensitivity. Maybe I'll turn it down to a 2. So I still stay protected, but I'm not losing my devotional life. All right. Thank you very much. All of you, please bless me that I can chant Hare Krishna with attention. Anything that I have said here that is good is due to Srila Prabhupada. Anything I've said here that's bad is all my responsibility. Please take the good and excuse the bad. Thank you very much. Srila
Thank you
Prabhupada.
very much, Mataji. Very hard hitting, but a beautiful answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Mataji, for your time. We're very, very grateful to you. All of these children here, I think they have taken a very, very valuable lesson. We hope to discuss.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Okay, for some of you all who wanted the recordings,
Oh, yes. Hare Krishna.
yes, yes.
I would like to record Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I think there's also one more person who is looking for recordings. So the one thing that if you all have, you're in personal touch with Mataji, then I normally share the recordings with her. Maybe she can share it with you all, or the other way around is to share your phone numbers here on the chat box with me, and I can share them with you directly. Whatever works with you all. I don't know how to-
Yeah, chat.
Okay, to Leela Prabhuji, I will share.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so I note down some of these numbers. For those of you all are already there on Thinking Stars, don't bother. I will definitely share it on Thinking Stars. Yeah. 193. I will share, Vishnu Priyanka Mataji, I'll share the recording on the Vaishnavi group, so you don't have to worry.
I'm not sure if I am in the Vaishnavi group.
No, Mataji, I have taken down your number. I was referring to somebody else. I have taken down your number.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, I'll share the recording with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavad Pranam.